Hi there, I'm Julie Tiedens. I'm a yearbook and newspaper advisor in Black River Falls, Wisconsin, and I wanted to show you how we use Basecamp with our newspaper staff. So my school runs on an A-B block, so most weeks my class meets just 2 or 3 times a week, and so obviously we need to have some opportunity to communicate with each other outside of class. Another small side note is that this is the first time I've had a class this big for several years, and so we hadn't been using another platform to do any communication. We had tried a few small things. We've been using group text, we've been using Group Me, we'd used Trello a little bit. We're yearbook staff. We've done all kinds of little things, but they just didn't take off. The kids really didn't get into them, and so when our staff doubled in size, I felt like we really needed to do something, and Basecamp, because it's free and I had an account already, I decided to make it work, and we did, thankfully. I wanted to let you know, though, first production cycle was rough. And I think that what needs to happen is that you need to find something that works well for your staff. I've seen some great examples of how other staffs work on things. This one worked for us, and maybe taking my experience and other people's experiences, you might be able to find something that really works for you. What really made things click for us was the to-dos area, and so I'm just going to show you that. This is where my kids spend most of their time. There are obviously other things that we use here, but the to-dos are the number one thing. The default for to-dos, I believe, is actually to see it in a list, and you can see that this is what it probably looks like for most of you when you first start out. My kids really like to view them as cards. Not only can you see a little bit more on a page, but kind of organically at one point in time, one of my editors, and I have 4 of them, 2 work on print stories and 2 work on video stories. They give feedback. That's a really important thing that they do for my staff, for the rest of the staff, and so they're each given about half of the video stories or half of the print stories to work on. They decided that they were going to start color coding their cards so it was easy for them to see them. So you can see right here that we've got a bunch of pink cards. Those pink cards are actually, they belong to one editor, a variety of different writers or producers, but one editor. I'll show you how an example card is set up. This one is one of Kinani's cards, and so when we go into that pink card, you'll see that we have 5 different steps that need to be completed before it is posted and finished. So you can see that we've got basically a label, story here, and then a slug after it. The label just helps the editors and the staffers understand what type of work they must submit. We have different requirements for each different type, and so it just communicates clearly what we're looking for. And then there are those 5 steps: submitting a draft via a comment, giving a feedback via comment, revisions made, approved, and posted. So what happens is that the person who's assigned the story has to go down here and link to or submit a link to a Google Doc that they are working on with their story in it, or they would upload a video. That's pretty simple. The uploading would just happen by clicking on this and then finding a video probably saved already on their computer. After they hit add this comment, either their video uploads or their link is saved. And then they're going to be checking off submit draft via comment. Now, the nice thing about this is that we've got it set up to notify the editor as soon as this is marked as done. So there's that. Also, this does have a deadline on it. It tells us when it was originally due. Once that's submitted, the editor, Kinani, has to go through and give feedback, and that feedback can be made either in here via the comments themselves, or most likely if it's a print piece, they go into Google Docs and make a lot of marks and comments on that document. When that's done, it'll be checked off and Bella will get a notification. You can see how it's set up right there to do that. Bella then comes in, she makes revisions to her Google Doc or to her video, re-uploads or re-links, and then she's going to check this off, which then notifies Kinani. I know this is like long, but I like those notifications. I think they're really nice. Once those revisions are made, Kinani gets a notification. She goes through, hopefully she approves it and checks it off, otherwise she makes more comments. And then when she checks it off, I get a notification and it tells me, oh, hey, you need to go in and post, because I still do post for them. It makes things a little bit simpler. I can do it much faster than they can, considering their time. So that's basically the system, how it's set up. When you click through here, you can see that you can add deadlines on things. I mean, for me, normally, once feedback is given, I tell the kids, you have 5 days to make those changes if necessary. And then I actually have my students, my editors, select a date that it has to be done. So if, for example, the piece were commented on the 7th, well then I'd say by the 11th it had to be turned in, and so I would put a deadline, or have my students the editors put a deadline on there depending on when they gave feedback. I also want to note that I have a template where I have a hard time sometimes with my kids writing headlines and getting photos and things like that. We're also working with social media right now, trying to get my kids to do more of that, and so here I just have a little template where I point out they have to be typing in a headline, they have to give me a link to their image. They can also upload. I'm thinking that might actually work better for them most of the time, because some of my kids are really struggling with putting links from Google Drive into this document for some reason. Then they do some social media stuff. They can kind of suggest to the social media editor what to put in there, and then they put their story below that. So just a note that I do have that on every single one of them, and the reason that I'm pointing it out is that I actually copy these. So I have a sample or an example story card for Kanani, and I have one for all the other editors too. So every month I can just go through, I can copy them, set them up, and get them started. So I really appreciate the time that you took to listen to this, and I hope that it was helpful for you in some way.